Hello everyone, Digital Sticks here, and as promised, I'm going to make as indicated, I'm going to make some additional videos and have the 2 videos a week goal with no clear guidelines for the content. So this is an experiment to see how it goes if I actually read something. Most of my videos are ad-libbed. I've never actually made an outline or a script of any kind. Um, and so not only have I not done that, but I never practiced even trying to do it. So it's different. So I'm going to see how this turns out while recording. And so what I'm going to work with is I made a really long comment on a video, and I realized that the long comment is probably never going to be seen or read. It was more just a personal expression from a personal experience. But I'm going to go ahead and give that comment a little more attention. So in the description, I intend to link to the video I'm discussing. And only after I watched the video and made my comment, I discovered that this video has been seen 6 million times, over 6 million times. And I seem to be an exception in my perspective compared to others. Now, to clarify, I did not watch the video in its entirety. It was triggering for me in some respects, so I just kind of skipped around. But this is a video where a kid claims to catch recording his narcissist father. Conveniently, this is after the fact of something, I guess, or whatever. Anyways, I'm not fully... It's been seen 6 billion times, so there might be something I'm missing, but I have a different perspective from it that I do feel deserves a voice. And again, I emphasize I did not watch it in its entirety, so it's entirely possible that some of what I missed is what other people caught on to. But anyways, if you're watching this, thank you for giving me a chance to be heard out. And so I'm going to read my comment, and I'm going to try to read it as though I was, just see, with my previous video, I talked about pressured speech, and part of what, an interesting thing is I read my comment aloud to myself, and then to be able to add the inflection and everything as I meant it, and I felt it was a pretty good situation. And so it's it also ended up being a way to express things that I can't really dig into because, again, it is triggering. It is something I don't want to dwell on and dig into. But at the same time, it is something I wish a lot of people understood. That's one problem I have is I don't have any trouble making friends or being friendly and getting positive exchanges out in the world. But when you've been through so much and it's a Cliff Notes version won't explain it, it makes everybody strangers. They don't know your backstory or whatever. And so you can't even hardly hint at it when it's complicated because the sympathy you're getting is not appropriate. It's still not the same. It's hard. It is really hard. And so it leaves me alone dealing with this. I mean, I have most of the people involved were not legitimate, but I do have one legitimate relative that can fully and appropriately appreciate what I've been through and its impacts and things like that. And that's, thank God, that's better than none. Okay, so anyways, this video, it's a kid supposedly recording his narcissist father, and maybe that is the case, but I experienced it differently, and here's what I experienced. I personally think this video lacks context, but perhaps that's because I have suffered from narcissistic abuse as a husband and a father. I have had children manipulated and coached into behaving towards me very similar to the guy filming the video is towards his father, except it was in judgment of how I handled what turned out to be a deliberate rebellion by them. My ex had told them that they did not have to do chores, and that no one, not even the police, could ever make them do it. Needless to say, no one gave me the playbook, so it was a setup to get me flustered and force me to resort to who knows what, trying to get obedience. Thankfully for me, my concern about chores and their obedience was truly rooted in what was necessary and what was best for them, and not at all in using them as slaves as I was accused of. Raising my voice to add urgency versus resorting immediately to punishments or threats of punishment was then used against me, exaggerated as though I were yelling fiercely. That exaggeration of my actions was a small part of the gaslighting I was subjected to, leaving me to question whether my well-intentioned actions were indeed coming out as something abusive. Hindsight has revealed almost everything, and one of the lines that I hear in this video clip from the mom to the dad sounds terribly familiar. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. That was a form of gaslighting against me. It was an out and an excuse for people deliberately ducking accountability for their actions, and who were without excuse for questioning mine. It turned out my second wife was a total fraud and truly did not care about the horrible life choices and things her then teenage daughter was making and doing. Yet she pretended to be a concerned but naive parent. The "it's not what you said but how you said it" type of approach to different situations was absolutely a way to gaslight me, simply because my legitimate actions as a father and stepfather were not convenient for their true selves, but were justified completely if their fake selves had been legitimate. The kid in this video looks likely to be of adult age. Assuming that was the case, he should have been taking responsibility for getting out of the house and gaining the separation he needed. Recording his parents when his residing in the house was no longer mandatory and he wasn't in danger was indeed wrong. The dad wasn't happy about being put on YouTube before and was obviously correct to presume that the son would do it again. Everyone watching this video cannot deny this. Regardless, I skipped around in the video. I could not stomach it because hopeless family conflict always has the same tone. It's triggering for me to hear that too much for me to pay enough attention to pick a side. From what I have experienced, I could not conclude that the father was unreasonable from what I heard, and again I skipped through. I did not hear anything inappropriate from the father. Instead, I heard the mother using a line that was used against me. The mother did not display any indication that the husband was a narcissist, either through fear or through siding with him to avoid conflict. It's entirely possible that the dad is being recorded only after being set up by the kid, and the mom is helping the kid while pretending to be neutral in the situation. Again, I don't know for certain. The video was triggering when I hoped it would be revealing. Perhaps my personal experience is blinding me to how these things normally play out. I'm not proclaiming this guy Dad of the Year, but I can hardly see him as king of the narcissists. Perhaps the most narcissistic possibility that I observe is the preoccupation with being recorded. However, he bases that concern on how he was treated by previous recordings that both the kid and the mom acknowledged was true. I didn't fear being on camera until later in the process, becoming aware that where there is a will, there is a way to cherry pick any situation or add any amount of spin to support an agenda. Any truly objectionable people can still be predisposed with the expectations to hear or see a certain type of behavior, making it more likely that they will see or hear that behavior. Perhaps they will see it as more mild than they were led to expect, but it's almost impossible to be prepped to hear an overbearing parent and then interpret a legitimate impassioned plea or effort to reason as something other than a parent being overbearing. I digress. My entire situation is unfortunately stuff that not even movies dare to be made of, and I'm not exaggerating in any way, shape, or form. There isn't a Cliff Notes version. This comment will likely never be read in full. I'm more likely venting because I was triggered than seriously thinking I'm informing anyone of anything. That said, really what is most important is that there's always two sides to every story. True narcissists gaslight with abandon, and they love to project themselves onto their victims. Real narcissists behave in public differently than they do in private, and then they use this aspect of themselves to falsely accuse people who behave the same in private and public as being narcissists. People who don't consider that there are two sides then buy into it without evidence. Please don't do this. It's really enough to support your friend and encourage them to seek any distance that they can possibly get in their situation. Stay neutral between the parties, but be a pillar of support for your friend if you have no cause to doubt them. Just don't be judge and jury, because it's absolutely entirely possible that your friend is a narcissist, not the person your friend accuses of being one. Okay, so let me... Whoops. Shoot, I'm sorry. Excuse me. All right, so I don't know how that went off. Again, it's a test run there, but I don't know how that comes across reading the comment, if it makes as much sense as if I was truly ad-libbing it. I'll just see. This is somewhat of an experiment. Hopefully it worked out well enough that people are seeing this video, because there is still some valid points in that comment that it's something I'm seeing over and over again. It is helpful to me to see some of these experts better explain narcissism. It helps me recover from what I've experienced and all of that. But the other side of it is, I know what it's like to be gaslit as a narcissist, and I'm kind of seeing that potential being overlooked by all these channels. And I understand to a point. I mean, your idea, your excuse me, the context is hopefully reaching out to help and benefit people who have suffered from narcissism, in which case identifying the narcissist is not really the issue. They know who it is, and they're trying to come to terms with the behavior and the things that they've suffered, or how to deal with that person going forward. So I totally get all of that. But it's also being used by people to be like, see, so-and-so's a narcissist, to gain evidence. In fact, to the point that one content creator actually specifically states not to link to her videos or share them, so that she's not being her information is not being put to use that way. And of course, the professionals just claim that their information they're sharing on YouTube is for educational purposes only, not intended to diagnose, treat, or whatever, all that. But that said, it's still, or maybe it's just me experiencing the other way around, but it's like, especially when they're discussing the fact that how they can be one way in person and another way in private. That totally sets up a narcissist to gaslight and falsely accuse a completely innocent person. And if people take that hook, line, and sinker and don't recognize that just because that's a possibility doesn't mean it's true, then that person being falsely accused has no chance in hell of and you don't even know. That's some of what I went through. Is like, I had zero clue of just, at one point I had zero clue that my kids would lie about me at all. And then on top of that, the extent that they were willing to go to. And then in one place I went to try to get some assistance, I literally went with just the best intentions, and I got treated like total shit by these people that I thought would help. And it's only now, it's actually very long into hindsight, when the whole issue is no longer relevant, that it occurred to me, I don't know what they were told. and what I learned later, like, certainly, I just couldn't fathom my kids doing what they did, honestly. And so now I realize, I was like, I can't believe, I was like, what kind of agenda is this? Or, I just I thought the person was absolutely horrible, and I didn't understand why they had their position. And now I realize, my God, I mean, there's two sides to the story, and when one side's willing to embellish their side with lies, with abandon, I'm just stunned. Like, my own daughter was so two-faced that, I mean, and I only discovered to the point that even after having one moment that I should have awakened to it, I still fell for it completely and totally again, just because it was so unfathomable. And it's just, there's no way to describe it. Like, having a wife turn out to be a fraud or whatever, you're just like, oh, how was I so stupid? What did I miss? All that. But having your own kid that you should be able to expect unconditional love from. You show unconditional love to them, and you should be able to confidently expect it to come in return. But there's one moment that really sticks with me that makes it really hard to understand the two-facedness, and that's, she was in band and making rapid progress in her first year of band. Very impressive. And she played her song for me we were at a park. I don't remember what we were. It was a park in Tulsa, so I don't, it's out of the way for us. So I don't know. We must have been there killing time for some other reason, or we were doing something else and the park was on the way. I don't know. I don't know why we were there, but she had her instrument with her, and she played her song, and I was just really impressed with it. And she was happy to share it, and made eye contact with her and stuff, and the warmth, the happiness on her face, the icon, it was like she was happy to share her progress with me, her dad, and everything seemed normal and natural about our relationship, and the warmth, and just how that same girl behaves the way she does otherwise, and I don't even know the extent of what has been said about me or whatever. I mean, there's just a handful of things I've been able to. It's crazy. Like, the only stuff that is actually discussed with me is like petty, even if their version of events is exactly how it went. It's still petty, and it's like, so. Excuse me. So what was said to gain? I don't know. Anyways, it gets complicated, but I just know there's two sides to the story, and narcissism is a real problem. But at the same time, people that are dealing with narcissists, it's pretty obvious that the most important and best thing you can do is gain separation from a narcissist. There's some scenarios where that's not an option. If you're married with children, it gets a lot more complicated. And obviously if you're a minor child in a home, separation is not. But in the vast majority I can't say vast, in a lot of the cases, separation is a possibility, and it's the only solution. So the pointing fingers and the accusations of who's a narcissist, who's not, all this stuff, it's a setup. It's like, it's food for narcissists to gaslight somebody else or malign their character behind their back with somebody not knowing. And yet the actual determination of who's a narcissist, who's not, is not even necessary by an outside party. If you have full faith in your friend and your relationship is good and you have nothing to stand on to think otherwise, then go with that. But just support your friend. Don't turn against somebody else on behalf of, don't do your friend's dirty work. Just be there to support them as a friend. Like, if they're suffering something here, like, I get it, you can talk to me or whatever, but there is nothing you can do for your friend. There's nothing you can do that's going to make anything different regarding the narcissist. You can join as a friend, and there's nothing. There's nothing. Separation is what somebody suffering from a narcissist needs to do, and having somebody listen is what somebody suffering from a narcissist needs as well. So you can do the listening, and encourage the separation and not get involved with whether or not you're being taken advantage of and duped by the actual narcissist yourself. And so that's my takeaway here as somebody that's experienced the other side of this, the gaslighting side and all of that is, it's helpful. It can be triggering at times, but it's mostly helpful to learn more about narcissists. I mean, that's why that's learning some of that is what has got me even talking about mental health issues now on this channel, as I recognize the ongoing difficulties from past stuff is not really something that a narcissist takes pleasure in. Unless perhaps it says, hey, I won. I don't care if she thinks she won. But somehow I do care if she continuously, I just realized that suffering, excuse me, suffering from something that is over and done with, that doesn't give a narcissist present and current control. So it really, talking about these things doesn't make any difference in the situation. It's just good. It's good to share and get that out there. So here's another video doing just that. And so, I'm not opposed to the content in any way, shape, or form that educates people on the true issues of narcissism. I just hate that the fact that people can be falsely gaslighted as a narcissist doesn't seem to get any mention whatsoever, and that's extremely important, I know, because I've suffered from that side of things. Anyways, I digress. Some digital sticks. This was all basically okay. I digress. Some digital sticks. And I did end up having to put in some edits because I started coughing towards the end of this video. But anyways, this was all an experiment. And I also am trying to slow down my speech some. I don't know if I succeeded all the way through, but practice makes perfect. And of course, I'm perfect. I'm far from perfect. Practice is never going to make me perfect. I don't want to be perfect because I want to be relatable and real. And so that's not perfect. So anyways, I hope to get better so that the content is more useful. And just, I want my content to be as effective as possible to reach as many people that it can reach who it may serve a purpose for. And then also would like to always be an example that humility is worthwhile. That humble people can do stuff too. But that's still digressions from the main topic of this video, I suppose. I don't know how long or if ever I will get that out of my system. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you on the next one. As soon as I find my button here. Oh yeah, it's up here. Oh shoot. All right, here we go. All right, have a good day. I'm really out.